Lila had always been enchanted by the idea of making ordinary home spaces feel extraordinary. Her living room was cozy, but the walls felt empty, cold, and impersonal. Books, trinkets, and keepsakes had no proper stage. They sat scattered across tables or tucked into drawers, unseen. One rainy afternoon, as she watched the droplets slide down the window, she realized that the solution didn't require new furniture. It required floating shelves accented with epoxy art. She began by selecting reclaimed wood pieces from her garage. Each plank had history, knots, slight cracks, and natural grains that whispered stories of their past. Lila loved these imperfections. They added character, but she wanted to elevate the wood, making it both functional and beautiful. Pulling out her epoxy resin kit, pigments, and a small collection of metallic powders, she planned her design. Her vision was to merge nature's raw beauty with the magic of glossy epoxy, capturing movement and light in a way that made each shelf unique. The process began with careful sanding, smoothing the surfaces while preserving the wood's natural textures. Lila then mixed a batch of clear epoxy, adding layers of ocean blues, emerald greens, and iridescent silver powder to reflect light in a subtle, shifting way. She poured the epoxy onto the edges of the shelves, letting it flow naturally into crevices, emphasizing the wood grain and creating a border that shimmered like water on stone. But she didn't stop there. Lila embedded delicate elements into the resin. Tiny seashells she had collected from summers at the beach, small polished stones, and even a few specks of gold leaf for a magical shimmer. Each piece was carefully positioned with tweezers, almost like placing jewels in a crown, ensuring that every inch of epoxy contributed to the overall story. The resin flowed around these inclusions, encasing them in glassy perfection. As the epoxy cured, the shelves transformed. What was once ordinary wood now seemed alive, glowing subtly with layered colors and sparkling inclusions. The floating shelves appeared to hover against the wall, ethereal yet grounded, commanding attention without overwhelming the room. Lila installed them carefully, measuring every placement to ensure a harmonious balance along the wall. When she finally decorated the shelves, the effect was mesmerizing. Books, potted plants, and small keepsakes became part of the artwork, reflecting light off the glossy epoxy edges and drawing the eye upward. Each shelf told a story. The driftwood-inspired one evoked the serenity of the beach. Another with green and silver resin seemed like a forest canopy caught in sunlight. Guests were captivated, often lingering to touch the epoxy edges, marveling at the combination of tactile wood textures and the smooth, glossy resin. Through this project, Lila realized that home decor doesn't have to be purely functional or purely artistic. It can be both. These epoxy-accented floating shelves weren't just storage. They were miniature stages for treasured objects, glowing with color, depth, and personality. Every shelf captured light differently throughout the day, shifting subtly as the sun moved, creating a dynamic, ever-changing display. She discovered that epoxy resin could transform ordinary wood into a living artwork, blending natural imperfections with intentional design. This project also taught her patience and precision. Each layer of epoxy required careful pouring, curing time, and adjustments. But the reward was more than worth it. The shelves became a centerpiece, sparking joy, conversation, and inspiration for her to continue creating. Lila knew that any room could be transformed with a touch of epoxy magic, thoughtful design, and an eye for the beauty hidden in ordinary objects. By combining reclaimed wood, natural inclusions, and layered epoxy resin, Lila had created something truly unique. Floating shelves that were functional art, enchanting her daily life and inviting others to see the hidden beauty in every corner of her home.